Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated if you're joining me on the YouTube channel. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. It's Friday, and as of Friday, there is always topic lows. For those that don't know in the media tends to break itself down as such. Um, Focus in on the things that get the most buzz, the most traffic, the most eyes, the most clicks, the most page turns, the most um, newspaper sold. And then when that's not available, find ways to find ways to generate conversation. One of those ways that they generate conversation is through telling you about what the newest, best, or brightest is. There's always like this race to anoint something new. There's always a race to crown somebody else the next, or crown someone else the new, or crown a team the next, or the coming, or the new, or to say that like somebody or a team is done or dead. See, that's how they keep the narrative going with the Lakers. Because if we're really being honest about it, the Lakers this season, they haven't like outside when once you find out, hey, people are going to be hurt, they're not doing as well. Now it's not really a story, but the Lakers, and more specifically, the Lakers with LeBron James, they move the needle. So that's why you get a story every single day on these sports talk shows that you see on television. That's why people bring them up every single day, because they move the needle. So when you ask yourself, man, why is there a Cowboy story on every day? Or why do they find every day to talk about Tom Brady? Why do they do that to Aaron Rodgers? Blah, 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 blah. So on and so forth with teams. The Knicks. Why? Because that content moves the needle. That content brings engagement. Why do they keep trying to make Steph Curry the greatest ever? Because it moves the needle. Because it creates you going, oh wait, why do they keep trying to compare Jordan and LeBron, even though neither one of them play anywhere near the same style of game? Because they know it's going to have you go, oh, wait, he never did this. So now, think about this. It forces you to speak negatively about somebody in order to support your positive point about the other. Right? So I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting when we look at how we deify or how we demonize teams and people just based off what we hear every day. See, we're in a society where it's too quick. We're too quick to crown. Everybody wants to be called the best. Everybody wants to call somebody the best. Every team wants to be the best. Every team wants to be called the best. It's happening right now with the Chicago Bulls. All of a sudden, DeMar DeRozan, who people said wasn't enough in Toronto, is all of a sudden enough in Chicago after not being enough in San Antonio. See what I'm saying? And I love DeMar DeRozan's game. Love his game. Think he plays basketball the quote unquote right way. But if you told me that a DeMar DeRozan who was 3 years, 4 years younger was not enough in Toronto, where they had a team that was essentially ready to compete for a title, and they were a Kawhi Leonard away. You cannot come back to me 3 to 4 years later. Now he's 3 to 4 years older, has 3 to 4 years of more mileage on his body, and tell me that he is the missing piece to a team that couldn't make the playoffs last year. I don't care who they added. If who they added is not Kevin Durant and or LeBron James, I do not care. Those are the only two people that change the math. Kevin Durant, LeBron James. Maybe Steph does. I wouldn't know. You know why? Because when Steph lost all his players, he conveniently was hurt all season. They essentially gave Steph a free year in Golden State when he didn't have any players. So he never actually had to be responsible for carrying that team. He never had to be responsible for all of the weight of the success of the team being on his shoulders. He had a built-in excuse. Everybody on the Lakers got hurt last year. They still blame LeBron. Everybody got hurt on the Nets last year. They still looked at KD with the side eye. So now DeMar DeRozan and by default, the Chicago Bulls, who did not make the playoffs last year, they're now supposed to be a championship contender. Do we not know how this thing works? It's only been shown forever. You don't go from worst to first. You take steps. Even today, ladies and gentlemen, you don't just get to jump the line. Toronto, when they won the championship, which, by the way, everything fell perfectly for them, they had been knocking on the door in the Eastern Conference. They needed a miracle shot in order to keep their season going. They got lucky and faced Golden State with no KD, and after Klay Thompson blew his knee out. So that's what happens. But they were knocking on the door. The Milwaukee Bucks had been the best team, or one of the best teams in the league, and specifically in the Eastern Conference for the past few years. They have the reigning MVP. They were knocking on the door. And because they were knocking on the door and everybody on the Nets outside of KD got hurt, guess what? They make the championship. They go up against a team who is without Chris Paul. And lo and behold, what happens? They're able to win. That's how these things go. That's how this thing happens.
You already on. I see you.
That's how this thing happens. It is one of those things where when we believe things just happen out of the blue, sometimes there's a really easy explanation for why these things have happened. Most teams who win championships don't just pop out of nowhere. Most teams who win championships, they don't just magically appear. Teams that win championships normally have been coming for a while. Here in Savannah, Benedictine won a championship this year in football. Last year, it could be argued they had a better team. It could be argued that they had a better team last year. Trent Broadnax, who's gone on to Duke, was their number one wide receiver last year, which meant that Zaquan Bryant was just another dude on that team. They had Justin Thomas, who was already a monster. They had Holden, already a monster. They could have won last year. They were knocking on the door. They came up short. They didn't get it done for whatever reason. Fast forward to this year, they understand they've been in the fire. They get it. They're able to get the job done. But we always want to try to crown somebody before they've been through anything. You can't piss on me and tell me it's rain. That's not how it works. We've seen it. We know how this goes. So when you tell me, oh, I need to look out for the Bulls are coming, I say, why? Because DeMar DeRozan's there? After you just told me 3-4 years ago that DeMar DeRozan wasn't enough. You just told me this past offseason that DeMar DeRozan wasn't enough because they traded him away from what everybody tells us is the best run franchise in the NBA, the San Antonio Spurs. So if you can't get it done in San Antonio, where can you get it done at as the lead guy? In Chicago? With who? Zach LaVine? Like I know people love Zach LaVine, and that's great, but he's still Zach LaVine. They got Lonzo. I love Lonzo, but he's not all of a sudden going to go from being on a bad team where they weren't relying on him to be the man or an integral part to all of a sudden being on a championship caliber team where they need him to be an integral part. Vucevic doesn't play any defense. He gets 20 rebounds, but the person he's going against is getting 20 rebounds. So what are we talking about? Why are we so quick to crown him? Why can't we just say, hey, Chicago's a good story. They're coming. Chicago's a good story. If they continue to get better, they might be contenders. We don't have to crown them. We don't have to make them something that they're not. That's not how this thing works. There is no pressure to do so. Nobody, but here's the thing. There may not be pressure to do so, but we got to get people to pay attention. So I'm not mad at media for drumming up this newfound story. I'm not mad at media for pushing this narrative, but you guys have to be smarter than this. If you're a sports person, if you're a sports consumer, look at it and go, okay, they're just trying to boost them up. You don't have to look at it and all of a sudden now parrot what people are saying in the media. You have to understand what their number one goal is. No longer is it major media's goal to simply inform. That's not what major media is there to do. They're not there to simply inform. They need eyeballs. So they are going to go to the things that they know generate eyeballs, that they know generate ears, that they know generate clicks, page turns, people, the things that pick up a newspaper. This has been as old as time, but it's no more prevalent now. It's more prevalent now because the pressure is there, because most of these media outlets are owned by business entities. They did not buy a newspaper just to lose money. They didn't buy a television station or a podcast network simply to lose money. So the days of just doing it because it's the right thing to do are over. Now there has to be an angle that brings in eyeballs. That brings in eyeballs, that gets people to look, gets people to see. It doesn't mean that they won't try to to keep that journalistic integrity. It just means that it's difficult, right? It's difficult. Because while you have to sell newspapers, you have to get clicks to your websites. You have to get people to click on your articles. You have to get social media engagement. You have to have people not only clicking on the video, but watching the video longer than 10 to 15 seconds. Why? Because 5 seconds is the commercial before you can click off of it. 10 to 15 seconds is usually the full commercial. They need you to watch that stuff. That's where the money is. So while it might be a cute story to say, oh, well, you know, this team is just going along about their business and, you know, they're going to be good, but we don't know. That doesn't make anybody go, ooh. So they have to say sensational stuff like the Chicago Bulls are championship contenders. They have to say, oh, well, now that James Harden is with Joel Embiid, they're a championship contender. If James Harden can't make Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving championship level, then what makes us think he's going to make Joel Embiid? Joel Embiid don't shoot no threes. So while James Harden is out there dealing and dominating the ball and not playing any defense, guess who doesn't have the ball? Guess who's being asked to play defense and make up for his teammate that doesn't? Joel Embiid. And the one thing Embiid has shown is he can't stay healthy any more than Anthony Davis can stay healthy. So what are we talking about? But that's not sexy to just say, hey, they should be better because now they have a point guard who will actually shoot the ball. Like, say that, but we won't. We got to go, oh, they're in the championship talk now. Oh, my gosh. We do it all the time. We're so quick to throw the crown on people. You know what? Hold on to the crown. Let it breathe for a little bit. The crown wants to date around. The crown doesn't want to just be in a marriage so quickly. Let that crown date. Let that crown chill, relax. It will. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a comment. We want to hear from you. What do you think? Who are you putting the crown on? Until next time, peace.